Hi guys, welcome to the Art of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Pearls.
And I'm Paris. And today, that's right, I'm introducing the topic. We are going to be talking about how stress impacts women and also how nervous system regulation can help. So, shock, it affects everyone differently, even men and women. The topic is about women. This is something that I'm not too clued up on because I'm not a woman. If you can't see me and you can't tell, I'm not a woman.
He's definitely a man, can confirm.
So, where do we begin with this one?
So with stress and how it affects women, the reason it affects us differently to men, obviously, the main reason is actually hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, when you're stressed or when you're chronically stressed for a prolonged period of time, your body becomes dysregulated. We've covered this obviously in other episodes. But when you become dysregulated, your entire body system gets knocked out of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, what that looks like is it
Us
affects
being women.
it affects our hormones. So for example, when your hormones are out of balance, things that will happen is you might gain weight around the midsection and it become really hard to lose. You'll start to get acne. You will also start to potentially have thinning hair. Your skin might be drier than usual. So it affects us in a lot of physical ways. And then also as well, because your hormones are made in your gut, what happens is it also affects your mental health.
Oh, okay.
So for example, you know, obviously they say like your gut is your first brain. So your gut becomes dysregulated then, and your mental health suffers. So like this can look like depression, anxiety. This can look like low mood. Other things that can happen is you can get fatigue. Like a lot of the time, I think as well, society just, or us, because of how society is, we just think like, oh, I'm just tired because I'm overworked. And actually, no, what it is that you shouldn't be tired all the time.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to like, did you sleep well last night? Yes. And you're waking up tired. That's like your body literally sounding the alarm saying, hey, something's wrong here. I'm dysregulated. But we just put it down to, oh, I'm just tired. You're not just tired. It's actually a big warning that something's going wrong.
Exactly. And I think as well, like if you consistently sleep 8 hours and you're not waking up energized, then there's a problem. And a lot of the time this can be tracked back to stress on the body, dysregulation in the body, etc. Other things that can happen is you can get brain fog. There's like a whole range of symptoms and things that happen to our bodies. For example, other things that happen, your periods can last longer, or maybe your periods become irregular. I remember when I was at uni, I had like three periods in a month.
Wow.
1 month. I literally at the start of the month had a period, then like a week and a half later I had another period, and then at the end of the month I had a period, and I was like, this has never happened before. What is going on? But I was obviously chronically stressed at that point.
Yeah, I'm not well versed in the period thing, obviously, you know, but
being
I'm being a man, but I'm assuming that 3 periods in a month is very wrong.
Yeah, it's very irregular.
Were you like worried when that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I went to the doctors. I was like, what the heck's happening to my body? Because that had not happened to me before.
No, I can imagine.
So obviously, and the thing for me is, you know, up until that point, they were very regular. So I would always know when I was starting. I would always know when I'm finishing. They'd roughly be about the same length, the same heaviness, etc. So when this happened, I was like, what the heck is going on?
Wait a minute.
Well, something's not wrong. Something's not right.
So like, did it, like you had your period, it stopped, and then you had it again, and it stopped, and you had it again?
I kept bleeding throughout the month. And like it was it was a proper period.
Wow.
But there's loads of women that suffer from this, you know. I know women who have periods that are like 2 weeks long.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing, like they should not be that long. And also they shouldn't be painful. Like this is another thing a lot of people don't know. A little sidetrack here is a lot of the PMS symptoms that we have are actually a sign of that your hormones are imbalanced. And the reason your hormones are imbalanced is because there's dysregulation in your body. So to a lot of people, if they realize that actually to balance your hormones, you just need to regulate yourself, and that will have a big impact on how your hormones are made and how they're affecting your body.
Yeah.
You get back into that healthy, regular loop again. But yeah, so I had like 3 periods in a month. I went to the doctors. Turns out that the only real difference in my life was actually I was chronically stressed. Like exams were coming up, and you know,
what was the stress for you? Like, why were you chronically stressed at the time?
I think I was just at uni. I was working full time. I was doing a full time degree as well, so I was running around a lot. I had a lot of other stresses like relationships, friendships, etc. that were going on. So there's a lot of things happening in that month that just popped off all at the same time.
Okay, so it wasn't like one thing.
It was a few things, yeah. And also as well, something that I found a lot when I look back, especially, is that I would only ever really get sick around exam time.
Oh, okay.
And the reason would be because I'd be stressed
about the exams and
and obviously because I was working full time, I didn't really have as much time to study as everyone else. So I was always like, oh shit, I've got so much to do, pulling all nighters, all that type of thing.
Very good for regulation.
It's real great.
If you want to be in a healthy place and handle your stress, pull an all-nighter. consecutively a lot of the time, like 3-4 times a week.
I do remember once, this is my first year actually, I did actually pull, like, I was working full-time as in door-to-door sales, so it was a like 12-13 hour day job, and then I did like 3 all-nighters. I passed out on the morning of my exam. I did not make it.
You did like a wheel from in between us, but instead of like, soil yourself, you fell asleep.
I fell asleep.
Nice.
I passed out. I woke up halfway through the exam and I was like, oh my gosh, my exam has started. I've missed it. What am I going to do?
I've never heard of anyone falling asleep in an exam.
It wasn't even in the exam. It was before I got there. I fell asleep at home. I remember opening my laptop. Opening my laptop to check, hang on, let me just check what building the exam is in, just to make sure. And that's the last thing I remember, opening my laptop. I just passed out because I was exhausted. And then I woke up like 2 hours later and I was like, oh my gosh, it's 9:30. Half the exam is over. I need to run.
It's interesting. Just give me a second to laugh at that. Okay, processing it. Cool. It's interesting what you say about stress, because you mentioned that it wasn't necessarily one thing, but it was an accumulation of things. And obviously it sounds like, exam periods for most people, me included, is a stressful time. But that wasn't necessarily the sole reason why you started feeling the way you was feeling. Is because you already had all this other stress happening, and that was your cup was full, and that was the thing that pushed your body over the edge. Or your body saying like, yo, like, you can't handle any more stress, shut down. Because consciously, how can you be having an exam and you fall asleep whilst you're like getting ready to go and do the exam? It doesn't make sense. But you must have been so run down,
super exhausted, super run down. Body said absolutely no.
and that's an over exaggeration of what the body can do. But it happens in smaller steps as well, like the symptoms that you mentioned earlier. These are also your body's way of saying like, slow down, address the stress, address the dysregulation, get to a point where we can handle it, so then these things don't happen, because I can operate properly. But if you don't, you get forced to almost.
Yeah, exactly. And even a few years later, when I didn't have as much stress in my life, I was going to the gym like, say, 5 days a week. This is the one and only time I went consistently for like 6 months, right? I was working at the time full time, but the job was okay. It was a little bit stressful, high intensity, but like there was nothing crazy going on in my life at that time. And I was going to gym every single day for like a couple of hours. I was doing all the cardio, I was doing all the bits and bobs. And in 6 months, I did not lose 1 single pound of weight. I did not shift 1 little pound of weight. And I remember being so confused, thinking, what the heck is going on? Why is my body not responding to this? I've done body pump, I've done spin cycle, I've done all the classes, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I'm eating really healthy. I'm eating less calories than I should. So I should be losing some weight here. And I didn't lose any weight. And then a few months later, I like 6 months into it, I was like, you know what? I'm sick of going to the gym. I'm not going anymore. I hate this shit. I hate the gym.
Not worth it.
Say it with the whole chest. I hate the gym. But I love working out. I love doing active stuff. So I signed up to aerial hoop. And I did aerial hoop once a week for an hour and a half. And within 6 weeks, I'd lost probably like a quarter of a stone, maybe half stone. But I lost weight that I hadn't seen in 6 months of going to the gym.
Right.
Now, the reason is because now that I know what I know, when I look back on it, it's like, why did that happen? Well, I was already in a state of stress from going to work and working the job that I had. And even though in my mind, I didn't think, oh, this is really stressful for me. Obviously it was, because what had happened is throughout my life, I'd become so used to stress. I was unable to tell when I was stressed. Even to this day, this is something that I'm still working on and connecting with my body. And
stress is normal.
Realizing that, oh, actually my heart's racing, or I feel a bit stressed, or I'm sweating a little bit, or like I feel like on edge. These were all very normal to me. It became like the norm. So I didn't realize it. So when I went to do aerial hoop, it was more strength based than it was like cardio based. So when you're doing cardio, obviously your cortisol spikes. It's very like whereas like doing aerial hoop was a bit
like core.
Exactly. So, and it was also a lot more fun. I hated going to the gym. I didn't go to the gym excited. I went to the gym because I had a goal.
Okay.
I went with my friend and we had a nice time. We had chit chats and stuff. But like doing the actual exercises, I didn't enjoy them. I wasn't excited about it. But when I went to aerial hoop, I was really excited. I really enjoyed it. I had such a laugh, and then obviously it was low impact. Well, high impact but low intensity. In terms of like I wasn't running around. I was just doing like core work. So I lost weight doing that, and I think that's the other thing as well. Like a lot of the time now, when I look at it, it's like, oh well, you were severely dysregulated, and actually just switch over. And this came up in our WhatsApp community a while ago, where someone was like saying like, oh, I'm doing loads of exercise and I'm not losing any weight. And the reason is because the exercise that you're doing is adding to the stress that your body already feels. So you need to switch to something that's a bit lower impact that you can actually still gain the benefit from, still be active in, but have better results. And sometimes it does literally look like slowing down and doing something that's a bit more gentle for your body.
It's like you're sending two signals to the body, because on one hand, you're doing this exercise to lose weight. But if you're doing it from a place of stress, your body's not going to lose the weight because it's thinking, hey, I need all the energy that I can keep to keep you alive because we're in danger right now. It doesn't equate, oh, this exercise is good for me. It equates this exercise is danger. So it's like holding on to everything. And just to ask you a question on that, like, you know, when you were going to the gym consistently, working out, obviously you had this goal to lose weight. You know, how did you feel when you wasn't?
Stressed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, hang on a second. I'm eating less, which obviously I was eating less. So in my head, I was like, why am I not losing weight? Even alone from eating less, I should be losing weight. But when you're in a dysregulated state, fasting or eating less calories actually sends the signal of starvation to your body when your body thinks, hey, I'm in danger. More stress. Like you build fat and store it in a different way as opposed to burning it the way that you would if you were not dysregulated and you're working out. So yeah, I was just stressed. It was just adding to the cycle. The cup's going overflow.
I can imagine. It's like, you know, it's so hard as it is to go to the gym and do exercises and workouts and these things, to have the motivation to do it consistently. It's not always something that you want to do. But then when you've got like a goal where you're seeing literally no results, it's like a slap in the face. You probably thought like, hey, like I'm never going to do that. Like what's wrong? So like, I feel that that's tough. But yeah, I'm glad that you found something that, you know, was more beneficial for you. And I think that's the thing when it comes to any exercise. I think especially, you know, gym bros and the whole gym culture, and it's all very much like no pain, no gain. Go 5 times, go 6, no, 7 times. Go literally live in the gym. That's literally
what I was doing.
Eat protein, work out as hard as you can, destroy your body to build a new one. And like, I get that if you're a bodybuilder, but even then I would argue that it's a bit, you know, on the brink of insanity. But like for normal, regular people, that isn't the way to go.
No, I agree.
And you know, what is, when you're stressed, you're not going into the parasympathetic state. So you're not going into rest and digest. Keyword, digest. So anything that you are eating, if you're stuck in survival mode, it isn't being digested. It's not being processed properly. So yeah, you are working out, but it's not doing anything. You're just making the problem worse. And then if it's losing weight, for example, you're looking in the mirror every day after you've done a big ass workout, a month later, still the same. You're thinking like, I might as well just give up here. That's causing stress.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just in this like cycle and all this stuff was going on. And obviously I was like massively disconnected from my body as well. So I had no clue that actually a large part of what I'm feeling is stress.
It's stress.
And I think this is something that probably a lot of people experience because of like the things that we go through in life, and also because society normalizes feeling stressed and the symptoms that are associated with feeling stressed. Like if you go to the doctors and your nervous system's dysregulated and you're telling them like, hey, you know, I can't sleep properly. My periods are all over the place. This is happening, that's happening. You're saying the symptoms to them and they send you for like an MRI scan. The MRI scan is not going to say you've got a dysregulated nervous system. They're just going to tell you, oh, it's normal. You're just working a bit too hard, or you need to eat better, or maybe you should do some more exercise.
Relax a bit more.
Exactly. And
don't stress as much.
Exactly. So
like, what does that mean? Like, yeah, that's the answer, but what does it mean?
But they don't give you the solution properly. They, you know, they just kind of, they can't actually, but they don't look into it in that way, I guess. And I guess that's because they're not the type of doctor that would look into it. I guess GPs traditionally give you like medication for your problem or send you to someone else who can give you some other medication for the problem.
So yeah, they estimate around 90% of all symptoms are stress related. So when it comes to healing, you have to go back to the root cause of your stress and start to alleviate those things. But of course, we're talking about how stress affects women, you being a woman. You know, how did this show up for you in your life, or how is it still showing up for you in your life?
So I would say that the number one thing that I realized is I was very disconnected from my body. So I did not realize how it was affecting me to start with, but because of like how society makes you think like, oh, it's normal. Things that would happen. I wasn't sleeping well. Still to this day, I have like some sleep issues, but that's a work in progress. And I was also brain fog all the time. Weight around the midsection, that was something that I really struggled to like lose, and I find that my weight fluctuated quite a bit. I also found that whilst I didn't really have mood swings, I think it really did affect my mental health though. So I had like low mood quite a lot. So I went through like a period where I was really depressed, and I think I think a lot of that had to do with being stressed and like the stresses in life. So obviously you have different types of stresses. You have like emotional, physical, environmental, etc. So for me, I think at that point in my life, everything was stressing me out, and I didn't manage it. I didn't really know how to manage it, and that looked like me becoming depressed, and then looking for a dopamine hit to get me out of the depression. So what that would look like, so what that would look like for me would be like shopping.
Okay.
So I acquired a large amount of clothes in this period. Yeah, I could have quite easily, I say this all the time, quite easily clothed a small city because I had so many clothes, still have so many clothes. But what I essentially was doing is I was finishing work, feeling a bit poo, wasn't satisfied with my current environment, felt very stressed by it. And then I would resort to like going online and buying something that would make me happy, and it arriving, looking at it, getting that dopamine hit again, and then like never wearing it. It would just go into the closet, and then I'd be looking for something else to buy the next day. So it would be like this cycle. Yeah, I used to have this thing where I would like finish work on a Friday and submit all my stuff, and then I'd just go into town and like shop, buy loads of literally shop till I drop, come home, really happy to be home, but then look at all my stuff, really excited, and then they're not what you would wear off, and then I'd be like, cool, I'll see you again next week. And then that was like a little that was a little cycle I was doing, but it was kind of like what I would use to get me through the week, like, oh, I'll go shopping on the weekend or on Friday afternoon after I finished work, blah 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 blah. And it was just became, and obviously it kind of like became like a little bit of an addiction because I was looking for something to make me feel better. And I a lot of people tend to like drugs or alcohol, but I tend to like shopping.
And this is the thing that's really important. I think whenever you use that word addiction, we think, addiction means drugs and alcohol. But the reality is you can be addicted to anything. Addiction is you numbing a feeling that you don't want to process or you don't want to address.
Yeah.
So it can be addicted to watching TV. It can be addicted to clothes. It can be addicted to like going out. It can be addicted to staying up all night and, whatever it is. If you're doing
good old revenge procrastination.
Yeah. But if you're doing it to avoid something, and to also make yourself feel good, that's addiction. You're not addressing the problem, and it becomes a thing. And these things that aren't drugs and alcohol go under the radar. Something like clothes, for example. I know so many men and women that do this, and it's normal. It's almost like you watch the films, and it's always like, oh, payday, and then you go out shopping.
Yeah.
Every week you're going out shopping for, like you said, Friday night, and then boom, you're out shopping. It's like, you go to the high street, most of the people up there are probably doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They don't realize that there's anything wrong with it because 1, they think it's normal. 2, they don't even know what's going on inside them. And 3, it's making them feel good. So if it makes you feel good, why are you going to think that there's something wrong with it?
Exactly.
And of course, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with buying stuff. It's just the process of, are you buying it because you want it or because you're avoiding something and you want it to feel good?
Exactly. Yeah. And I shopped so much that I knew like all my bank cards, long 16-digit number off the top of my head. So
this is how that happens.
Yeah.
I understand that.
So I knew it like the back of my hand because I obviously typed it in so often. And I had a thing about like not letting the computer save it. Just like a weird OCD thing. I just didn't like
privacy.
It. Yeah, exactly. So I would always type it out. So I memorized it. So that was another thing. And I think as well, other ways that it affected my life, I didn't really like going out as much. I didn't really have as much energy to like socialize. And something else that I found is because I would feel so crap throughout the week, I would go to like my parents' house, for example, on the weekend, and I would not be that social because I'd be so tired. And so like residual stress is just kind of there. And I just feel like a bit like more introverted where I didn't really feel like I had the energy to socialize, even with my family, for example, which doesn't really require socializing. It's just, I'm hanging out with my family. It's normal, but I kind of like went in my shell a little bit and just didn't have the energy. I was kind of a bit like a sloth who had lots of nice clothes.
That emerged once a week.
Exactly. To hit the streets.
That's it. I think a lot of us are trapped. We're so dysregulated. We're trapped in this almost weekly cycle of like go to work Monday to Friday, have all the stress of that, plus whatever's going on in the background in our personal lives or what's catching up or what we're even running away from in our past. We get to the weekend, we have these unhealthy coping mechanisms to make ourselves feel good to, address the stress that we're feeling. And then come Sunday, we probably crash only to go again on Monday and repeat the whole cycle. So it's this constant week in, week out of trying to like just get through the week to feel something again. And that's the healthy versus unhealthy coming into effect. Is like, if only we learn that actually we can, actually do things that will be of benefit to us and have a lasting feeling, that's the way forward. But unfortunately, no one gives us these tools. We don't get taught that, hey, these are the reasons you're dysregulated. This is what dysregulation even looks like. These are symptoms. They're just alarms from your body telling you that something's wrong. If you listen to them and know what to do, you can fix this problem. You can, like you said, empty your cup, and then you won't even feel this way.
Exactly.
And then your life will be full of joy.
Yeah.
You can actually start doing things that you enjoy. You won't have all this stress.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there won't be stress in your life, but the way you handle it will be a lot better.
Yeah. I think as well, like one mistake that I made was when I started, like, let's call it the healing journey. Further down the line, when I started incorporating practices into my like routine, I ended up having like a 3-hour morning routine. We ended up having a 3-hour morning routine. But what we know now, obviously at that point we were like, oh, I have this problem, let us fix it as quickly as we can. Let's do all the things, because if we stack them all super quick, then we can get super healthy and super healed. Healing. And obviously that was the worst thing that you could have done in a dysregulated state. That do not do that. If you are doing that, please stop, because
it's causing me stress just thinking about it.
Like, I'm sweating talking about it. It's just don't do it.
It's true.
Just don't do it, because the thing that, like, now that we've lived it, we've done it, and we've educated ourselves, what I know now is we were waking up. What was the first thing we were doing? Having a cold shower. Which, yes, is great for you, but
if you're regulated, but
if you're dysregulated, waking up and shocking the body
with stress
is probably not the best way to go. So if you're doing that, please stop.
It's like probably waking up stressed already as it is, because you're dysregulated, and then going, hey, let me go get chased by a tiger first thing. Let me go run in front of Raya and have that chase me. Or I don't know, play with traffic. It's just like your body's literally like, bro, I've just woken up.
Like, why you do this?
I can't. But yes, and this is a key example of like how you think something can be good for you, but it has the absolutely opposite effect.
Exactly.
Similar to like working out and doing the wrong type of workout.
Exactly. So we were obviously waking up, doing cold water therapy straight away. I was already stressed because I was having to wake up at 7 o'clock, which is something that I've never done before, by the way. I'm not a 7 o'clock in the morning type of person. It just doesn't happen. I mean, it's starting to happen a little bit now, but that's a different story. But anyway, so we were doing that. We were doing breath work, meditating. We had all these activities to do first thing in the morning, journaling, affirmations, all really, really great practices. But when you wake up in a state of stress, then you're stressing yourself even more. And then you've got like a long list of things to get through, which seem like such a challenge, especially because there's so much to do. And you've not even had breakfast yet. You're doing this on an empty stomach.
You haven't even had breakfast yet.
Literally. And you're doing this on an empty stomach. And then you're working out. Like, we were doing cardio at that point again. Yeah. And I was doing cardio every single day. And the same thing, actually. I didn't really lose any weight in that period. No, considering what we were eating. Considering what we were eating and how much we were eating and how much we were working and how much we were doing. And obviously now that we know, it's like, well, because I was in a state of stress. I wasn't about to lose no weight. I wasn't about to get any more toned. Body's storing fat in a different way. No. And I did not see the progress in myself at that point that I was hoping to get from doing that routine. Neither of us did, really.
No, I didn't.
We just felt more stressed and like, oh my gosh, we've got more stuff to do.
It felt good maybe at the time of doing it, but that was about it.
Yeah, temporarily. Yeah. It was like temporary like happiness, like, hey, we've done this.
Which is like the superficial healing. Like, we do these things that are air quotes good for us. They feel good at the time, but it doesn't have any lasting benefits because it's the wrong thing. We're doing too much of it, or we're really what we like to call chasing the healing high.
Yeah.
And that's an avoidance in itself. That's the same as buying the clothes, drinking the alcohol, going out on the weekend and partying. We're not addressing the root cause.
Yeah.
If you don't address the root, you're just touching the surface and the problem just continues.
Exactly. Yeah.
No bueno.
But yeah, so, you know, we had this routine, but like now what I know is, because the other thing was as well, that I really hated the alarm clock. Mm-hmm. I absolutely detested having an alarm clock because the job that I'd had previously, it was okay. I worked from home. The one before that, I could get up and go to work whenever. It was okay. It wasn't an issue. So alarm clocks were not really that much of a thing in my life, but like listen to an alarm clock first in the morning, that also set me into a state of stress. But like, obviously now that we know what we know, our morning routine looks very different now. Now it's very like, I wake up naturally. When I wake up, I have a much more slower morning where I'm not stressed. I'm doing things where I'm tuning into my body. And I think that's the like number one key thing when you're on this journey, when you're trying to regulate your nervous system, you're trying to reduce stress, it's actually building a strong mind-body connection. And I think that has been the most beneficial thing that we've learned on this journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Because for someone who's grown up in a stressful environment, had a lot of chaos, and experience this pretty much throughout all of your life, you become so
accustomed to it.
Yeah, you think, oh, this is normal. Society tells you it's normal. So you don't realize, hey, hang on a second, it's not normal to feel this way. It's not. So tuning into that and realizing when you feel like that is actually so important, because that's what's going to help you get to a point where you can manage it, deal with it, and overcome it, to a point where it doesn't affect your life and like symptoms, brain fog, not sleeping properly, etc. So yeah, it's been a quest.
And out of this quest, what would you say has been the biggest almost struggle that you've had to face or overcome?
I would say my sleep. I think whilst obviously on my whole healing journey, my symptoms, for example, when it got to a point where I was so stressed a few years ago, obviously I ended up in chronic pain.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't understanding what was happening to my body. Then my body started screaming. And then that looked like, hey, I'm not going to let you sleep. I'm not going to let you eat. I'm not going to let you go outside.
Listen to me.
And that's literally, it was like an alarm bell going off in my body, because the pain was so severe and I had to listen to it. So my stress journey, because I ignored it for so long, ended up into chronic pain and chronic symptoms. It was essentially a chronic condition that I live with. And on the back of that, I've started to heal a lot of it. And the majority of it is actually okay. But I think the remaining thing that's left is actually just improving my sleep. My sleep, because I'm still connecting with my body and building that relationship to a point where I can actually manage and learn when I'm stressed. I'm still learning. I think there's still loads of times where I'm stressed and I don't realize that I'm it. Because we always check in with each other and I'm actually, I do feel a little bit stressed. And I think also getting comfortable saying that I feel stressed, because I think potentially because it's so normal to me, I don't think of it as like, I haven't thought of it as like a bad thing, because society makes you think like it's normal. So you don't think of it as like a thing that I need to pinpoint or pay too much attention to. So I think also as well, like acknowledging it and saying it out loud is a big help. So now a lot of the time, if I wake up in the middle of the night, the thing that I do is check in with myself and say, hey, how do I feel right now? Oh, my heart's racing. I think I feel stressed. Why do I feel stressed? What's going on?
Yeah.
So I think, the biggest challenge has been actually my sleep. But I guess on the flip side, the thing that I'm doing for it is connecting with my body, checking it with myself to acknowledge when these periods of stress are showing up for me and managing them better so that they don't affect my sleep.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
It's a process indeed.
It's a process.
And when we're talking about nervous system dysregulation, the parasympathetic state we call the rest and digest. So what are those two things? Digestion, your gut, and rest, sleeping. So your body essentially can't switch off and relax, and it can't process, digest, and, release almost. So if you're stuck not in that state, then it shows up in the disruption in your sleep, like what you're experiencing, for example, or the gut issues as well that you've had.
Yeah.
All the other symptoms like hair thinning, bloating, all these things.
The bloat is real, man.
Yeah, but we call it dis-ease, which is rightly so. But if you break up the word dis-ease, what is it? Your body's not at ease.
Yeah.
And you go a little bit deeper. What is your body trying to tell you? It isn't an illness. It's your body's
balance.
way of communicating that it's not in balance. Something's off. And it's like you said, we're not listening, or we don't even realize half the time that we are stressed, that we are feeling overwhelmed. It's only when it becomes so loud that we're forced to stop that we then go to the doctors or we go start addressing it. But the truth is, it doesn't have to get there. Your body's probably telling you something now in this moment, like, hey, there's something going on. Like, everyone right now together, why not? Let's just actually feel into our bodies, scan it for some tightness, some tension, maybe close down your eyes if that feels good for you. Somewhere, there's something that just feels uncomfortable. Doesn't have to be painful. Just zone into that. What is your body trying to tell you right now in that moment? That's it. You ask the body and it will always tell you.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't always have to have trauma or something big that's happened in your life for you to have these symptoms or to be in a state of dysregulation. It can be something as simple as you're going to work every single day and it's stressful, and you come home at the end of the day and you don't get rid of that stress. You don't complete the stress cycle. You don't do anything to manage that stress. And over a period of time, it builds. It doesn't always have to be trauma in the sense of trauma. It can just be the day-to-day things that happen. Yeah,
because you mentioned stress shows up in the environment, emotionally and physical as well. So environmental being like work, going to work and you've got a high stress job, or the commute there, someone cut you off in traffic. Standard. The alarm bell, your alarm going off in the morning, that's environmental stress, I guess. Hearing cars outside, environmental stress. Emotional stress is, I guess, me having an argument with you us not clearing the air and me still holding on to all those feelings or those things that I didn't say, also tied to trauma as well. That's what causes emotional stress. And physical stress is
like an injury that you could have, or like medication that you're taking for something. These all take a toll on the body. So for example, with me, I had chronic pain and gut issues, and that was because I was already in a state of dysregulation, but because they were ongoing, that's adding to the loop of dysregulation. So it's going round and round, and it's kind of like a never ending loop, because you need to intercept to break it. So obviously, because it's going on, it's still causing stress on your body, not being able to go to the toilet, having an injury if you've broken your leg, or you've like got a deep cut, or something else has happened. So yeah, that's like physical stress that's already added on to the existing stress on your body.
So it can show up as one of these things, or it can show up as all of them. And if you're not processing the stress, then all of these things can be completely unrelated, but they accumulate in the body, and they show up as the cortisol hormone, and then also the adrenaline hormone made in the gut. And this, again, is what's causing the dysregulation. What's happening is you're not completing the stress response cycle. You're getting stuck in a triggered state, stuck in survival, fight and flight. I'm in danger. The body's not going to be able to operate properly, because the body isn't worrying about operating properly. It's worrying about sending all of the energy that it has
to keeping you safe.
To keep you safe. And this is why you get things like you're feeling run down, or your energy is drained all the time, or you're fatigued, even if you're sleeping, because your energy is being drained on overthinking. It's being drained on underfeeling. It's being drained on keeping you safe and worrying about all the things perceivably that might cause you danger. This is what gets you to where you're at. So if you're someone listening, if you're listening to this and you think, hey, I'm really tired all the time, and my sleep's actually okay, I shouldn't be this tired, your body's probably using up your energy doing something else that it doesn't need to be. Dysregulation. The crux of what we're talking about, I think this applies, of course, again to men and women, but specifically on this topic to women, is it's all about bringing regulation back to the body. First and foremost, you need to build that mind-body connection. In order to get that connection going, or being able to build it in the first place, you need to slow down. You need to start listening to your body. If you find it hard to listen, you don't know what your body's saying, it's probably because you're moving too fast. And again, this isn't something that you're going to be good at. Probably it's never going to be perfect. It's something that we're still both practicing all the time, but you do need to slow down to start listening to the messages, and only then can you start taking the action. So in that process of coming out of dysregulation, it's a journey. Be easy on yourself. Similar to working out, don't try and do it all at once. Don't try and work out every day. Don't try and do things that actually are causing you stress, but do something, because you don't need to live in this state. It isn't how life's meant to be.
If you're currently in a state of stress and you want to be active, but obviously cardio is not the best option, switch to something low impact like Pilates. Going for walks actually is 10 out of 10, top tier. Recommend it. Compound it by going for a walk in nature, and your nervous system will love you so much.
So for everyone that's listening today, if they were to say, hey, I'm a woman and I'm dysregulated, a lot of what you've said today is where I'm at. I feel a lot of what you said, but where do I start? Because this is all new to me. What would you say to them? Hey, this is what you should start with.
I've got a few tips actually. Tip number one is something that we've only really started doing more recently, which is cycle syncing. Because when we look back at the period where I was doing the 3 hour, or we were doing the 3 hour routine, I was not listening to my cycle at all. And that, now that I understand the importance of that, that's the number one thing that I would say. So potentially we'll do another episode on like cycle syncing, but I would say look into cycle syncing and how you can sync with your cycle. So for me, that looks like when my period's about to start, slowing down, closing down my projects and doing a lot less, basically. First day of my period, I try to not do anything or have very minimal things that I do, and just listen to the body, resting and tuning in, because that's just how it goes sometimes. We're not like men. We don't work on a 24-hour cycle. We work through a monthly cycle. So listen to that. And, I did not listen to it. We were like working out 24/7. It was a lot. And it wasn't just working out. It was like other things too, like work, etc., where I had way too much on my plate at a time where I probably really, really needed to slow down. So that's the number one thing that I would say. Cycle sync, listen to your body. It will thank you so much. The second thing that I would say is work on building a stronger mind-body connection. And this can be literally as simple as just checking in with yourself on a regular basis, just checking in with yourself. How do I feel right now? And, I'm trying to do it at a time when I notice that I'm feeling stressed, because that's like my issue. But if you're someone who is really disconnected from your body, because it's a process. Maybe just have like regular intervals where you check in with yourself. So for example, you check in with yourself in the morning when you wake up, before you go to work, or when you're at work, halfway throughout the day, at the end of the day, and then before you go to bed. And just have like regular check-in periods with yourself and ask yourself how you're feeling. And like Paris said earlier, when you ask yourself and you ask your body, how is it feeling? It will always answer. You just have to listen. And the third thing that I would say is really, 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 really improve your sleep. And by this, I mean, have good sleep hygiene, get your circadian rhythm in check. So for example, your circadian rhythm is essentially your body clock. If your body clock is not in working order, then the rest of your body will also suffer. So I would recommend having good sleep hygiene. So this can look like having a nighttime routine where you're not on your phone right before bed. I would say 30 minutes before bed, probably put your phone away and have no blue light and do something relaxing. Something that I do is I'll have a skincare routine. So I'll brush my teeth, put all my face products on, do my hair, etc., put my little bonnet on, etc., and get ready for bed. And in the morning as well, I would say on the reverse of that is have like a nice morning where you're doing the same thing. You're not on your phone for the first 30 minutes and you're having a nice, gentle, relaxing into the morning, essentially. Maybe you get some sunlight first thing in the morning. If you're in the UK, that's probably quite hard.
At least some daylight.
But at least some daylight, and go outside if you can for like the first 10, 15 minutes and go for a walk. Again, your body will thank you for it. You will sleep a lot better. We actually have a post on our TikTok that we did, which is about 7 things that you can do to improve your sleep. So I would say have a look at that. We'll link it in the show notes so that you can flip through it. But there's lots of little tips and tricks that you can incorporate quite easily into your life to improve your sleep, because once you start sleeping better, your body will start to repair. And then as well, a lot of the time we don't realize how much sleep impacts our like day to day. It impacts how your body breaks down food. It impacts how your body breaks down fat. It also impacts how your mood is, if you're irritable, how your brain's working. So it is so important to make sure that you're getting the right amount of sleep and the correct sleep. So yeah, and also I would say have a consistent bedtime. This is something that I really rejected for so long.
Still rejects.
No, I'm a lot better right now.
She's a lot better. I'll give her that.
But I really, really, really rejected this for so long, because I was one of those people that like enjoyed staying up late at night, but that's a whole different story. And when I actually started to tune into my body a lot more and started to accept, hey, I can actually go to bed before 12 o'clock. It doesn't mean that the day's not over. The day's over when I'm tired. But I used to say the day's not over until after 12 o'clock. But now I have like a consistent bedtime. I tend to go to bed between like 10 and 10:30, which a year ago I'd be like, I would never do that.
That's just not me.
I would never do that.
I don't understand people
that go to bed that early. But it's me. I go to bed that early. So yeah, I would say have a consistent bedtime and have a look at our sleep post, because there's loads of tips and tricks, because having good sleep will bring your circadian rhythm into balance, and then you will start to see effects in the rest of your mood and health, and also your nervous system will thank you for it as well. So yeah, those are my tips for this week. More tips than usual, but there's a lot more to it. It's a complicated topic. So yeah.
Complicated topic, but with a simple solution. And I think just out of everything you said, just pick one of those things. Maybe sleep, I'd say, but whatever it is, whatever you feel the most, don't try and do it all at once. Just do one of those things. Super simple, super implementable, super easy. If it's causing you stress or it feels like it's too much, it's probably because you're trying to do too much.
Yeah,
all at once.
Absolutely.
And that's all there is to it.
Like all these things, we didn't do them like overnight.
Yeah, that's it.
Cycle syncing is only something that I've started to do recently. I'd say probably in like the last two months.
2 cycles.
Like last 2 cycles is something that I've started to do. That they're tuning into my body. That's something that I've done for a little bit longer, just because it's an ongoing issue that I've had. And I'm wanting to connect with my body a lot more. And the sleep thing, this is even longer that's been going on. So it's been like a process throughout my journey that I've picked up these things that I'm using and bringing into my life. It's not something that you just click your fingers and do overnight. It's a process.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself.
Take your time. But yeah, thank you so much for listening today, this evening, whatever time it is that you're listening. I've sure learned a lot. And we will see you on next week's episode.
Yeah. Amazing.
Ta for now.
Ta.